My dudes, it's your boy, Adam Ward. And joining me on this week's show is a journalist, influencer, and playwright, Jess Flaherty, as well as Paddy the Baddie, the Cocker Spaniel, who is all up my grill as I'm recording this intro right now. In this episode, Jess talks her start at the Liverpool Echo, the Liverpool Everyman Writers course, and seeing her work performed, as well as the ups and downs of social media. So without further ado, this is episode 7 of Your Boy Cancelled, Your Boy's Influential. All right, Pat, let's go.
Hi, I'm Jess Flaherty, and you're listening to Your Boy Cancelled with Adam Ward.
So, my dudes, it's your boy, Adam Ward, and welcome to this week's YBC. Joining me is a playwright, influencer, and Liverpool Echo writer, Jess Flaherty. How's it going, madam?
Oh, good, yes. I'm very tired and sad from having a lovely bank holiday weekend with my family, and now it's all back to reality, so...
When did you go?
We went down, they live down south, so we had a day in Brighton, but my auntie lives in this like amazing house right by the beach, so it was just like a total escapism, just a complete other world. And it was just nice seeing like a lot of my cousins have kids who I've not seen for a couple of years, so it was just really lovely being down there. And now I'm back in Liverpool. It's raining, I've got work in a few hours, so feeling a bit sorry for myself.
Grim. But at least you had a nice time while you were there. And like, I feel like now, because of everything that's happening in terms of like lockdown and COVID, those kind of family things feel so much more special.
Yeah, and I think that makes it a little bit, because you're not going back to normality as in like pre-COVID, it does make it harder, like when you do like get those little glimpses of just regular fun life. And then you go back home and you're like, oh, yes, so I'm sitting in my flat for another 10 hours. Yay.
Yeah, this is what the world used to be like. Jess, what are you cancelling?
Well, I'm a bit worried about this because I think a lot of people are going to hate me for what I'm about to cancel, but I would cancel smoking. I absolutely hate it. I hate the smell. I hate everything about it. It's this old woman who lives below me. It's her fault because she smokes like a chimney and you can smell it in my flat. So now I just have zero tolerance whatsoever for it. I think it's disgusting.
I mean, to be honest, I'm kind of the same. Like, I think it's we're a similar age. We lived through the window of when we first started going out. Everywhere people smoked, and then it stopped. And it was that nice thing of being, because I'm a non-smoker, this is great. But then you end up spending half your night in the smoking area because everyone else smokes.
Yeah, I hate that. I'm like, it's cold. Can we not just stay inside where the music is? I don't want to be standing in this smell.
Or you end up being the one who stays with the drinks. I hated being that person.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's like, oh, you don't mind, do you? You don't smoke. You will leave all this here, and then you don't really get to answer because people just make the decision for you.
They've gone anyway. I'm entirely behind that. It's like, especially now, because now I only really feel comfortable going places that are outdoor right now if you're going for a drink.
Yeah.
So that's, I never really want to go places that are indoor. And you notice that even more now. Then there'll be someone smoking next to me and I'm like, I know we're outside, so this is kind of okay, but I still don't love it.
I just hate the smell so much. I just think it smells dirty. I'm not a fan.
I remember when I was 17, 18 and like just starting to go out, and it'd be the case of like you'd get home, all of your clothes just reeked of smoke. I hated that.
My dad smoked as well up until the smoking ban came into effect, and then he was like really Yorkshire about it and was like, no one's telling me where I can smoke, so he quit.
Have you never smoked since?
No, he's not smoked since.
Really? That's some good willpower.
Yeah, well, he did try over the years, but that was the final thing. He doesn't like being told where he can do something. So he was like, that's it, I'm done, I'm not starting again. That was the time that it stuck. And like when he smoked, obviously like I grew up with it, so I didn't mind it as much, but then being away from it, and now I'm just like, oh, it's disgusting. I can't cope with it. Please stop.
Yeah, I remember my nan always smoked. She used to when we were little and growing up, and it's kind of, there's certain places when you kind of recognize that aroma. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I am cancelling. I'm not sure if you'll agree with me on this. It might be one that a lot of people disagree with, but I am cancelling summer fashion.
Oh, what do you mean?
I like wearing layers. And
okay.
I'm not the kind of person who's content wearing like shorts and a t-shirt or like a vest. I'm not the kind of person who would wear a vest. I want to go out and like wear joggers or like wear trousers and just be like, it's really short weather. but I feel so much more content in like a smart trouser or jeans or like nice joggers, like smart joggers, than I do wearing shorts. And then I'll go buy some shorts, and then it won't be summertime anymore, and then I'll never wear the shorts, and then they'll stay in my wardrobe. And then it comes around to next summer, and I don't really want to wear them now because they're old.
Yeah. But we've had a crap summer this year, though, to be fair.
Yeah, we have.
Like, I was doing a lot of lockdown shopping to cheer myself up, and I ordered all sorts of summer stuff that I've not been able to wear at all. I do get what you mean. Like, I prefer layers. Autumn fashion is my favourite.
Me too. Love autumn. Going into winter. Yeah. I'm all about that.
Autumn's my favourite season, full stop. I just love everything about autumn. But I think that even if you want to wear trousers, just wear trousers.
Yeah, and I do generally. But then 9 times out of 10, Erin will be like, "You're too warm, aren't you?" And I'll be like, "I am a little bit warm."
You could wear them with like sliders, like long trousers with sliders.
Yeah.
I always think if your feet are cool, it's easier to be cooler everywhere else.
Yeah, you know what? I'm happy with wearing like a smart trouser with a t-shirt, or like a sweater and shorts. I'm happy with those kinds of combos. They're my ideal summer combos, but autumn to winter, that's my look. And for me, that was one of the saddest things about lockdown, because I felt like my wardrobe was at a stage just before lockdown where it was perfect. And I thought I had a lot of great ensembles going on. And then we got locked down. My kind of autumny look got locked down. And then when we were coming out of lockdown, it was all summertime. And I was like, oh, my wardrobe's ruined. Thanks, lockdown. Firstly, Jess, let's talk a little bit about your Instagram. So it's fashion, beauty, cruelty-free. Why are these things important to you?
Well, when I first started doing Instagram, it was predominantly cruelty-free beauty products, because I just found it really hard to go shopping, and I'm against animal testing, and I was surprised by the amount of companies that do test their products on animals. There's a lot of grey area in it as well, so like a company can say this product hasn't been tested on animals, but then the ingredients could have been, so they've like paid for a third party to test on their behalf, so they're allowed to say this product here hasn't been tested on animals, and they're right, that finished product hasn't, but then all the way up until it being finished it could have been. So I started, like, when I'd find stuff that was cruelty free, I'd be like, oh, I'll share that, and I'll take a picture in case other people want to look into it. And I think that I was probably a bit late to the game with Instagram and social media, because I do really like it, and I like the opportunities that it gives to people that have done well on it, like the amount of people, Instagrammers and influencers, that have got a book deal or a fashion line or all sorts of things that I would love to do. So now I feel like I'm just on a hamster wheel trying to chase that, because it started going quite well, and then I brought in fashion as well because I love fashion, and I buy more clothes than products because products last a lot longer. So then I started like mixing the two, and now it is mainly fashion, I would say, but I do still have that passion for cruelty-free products, because I just don't think that there's any way to justify testing a lipstick on an animal.
No, completely.
Loads of big companies do it. It's insane the amount of companies that do it, and loads of them as well have been proper sneaky. Like Garnier have got an advert out right now, and they've got a vegan formula, but they're not a cruelty-free company, so their products are not cruelty-free. They test
doing these, like, sneaky things to get around it, to give the illusion.
Yeah, so like, you can say a product's vegan if it doesn't have any animal derived ingredients in it, so technically it is vegan, but it's not vegan in the sense that it's not caused harm to an animal, because they'll test on animals when required by law. So yeah, very sneaky, Garnier. Not impressed.
Sneaky as hell, scoundrels. So you're starting to build like a bit of a following now on Instagram. How would you say, how does your everyday schlub like me or our listeners, how do you go about building a following?
Oh my gosh, it's so hard. I have this theory, and I might be wrong, but I do think that Instagram cherry picks accounts to like catapult, because I've seen it happen where people doing the exact same thing as me, posting this in a similar schedule, spending the same amount of time on the app, and they'll suddenly like have 20,000 followers, and I'm still like not yet at 10.
Yeah.
You need 10,000 to be able to do a swipe up link, so that means like if I say like, oh, I'm wearing this from Topshop, I could put a link to the item. So I really, really need need to get to 10 before I'll consider it a success. It's been very slow for me. For some people, it happens really quickly, and I honestly don't know how they've done it. I've spoke to some influencers that I'm friends with who've got bigger followings, and they themselves have said, I don't really know, I wasn't doing anything different, and then all of a sudden I just started showing up on the Explore page, started getting a load of followers, and now I've got 19,000 followers, and I don't know how it's happened.
Because sometimes it seems like it can be there'll be one post that explodes, and then from there, everything else takes off.
I do think consistency is key. Like, the times when I've gained the most followers has been when I'm on holiday. So I'm posting every day. I have time to like reply to comments. I think that's really important for engagement. But Instagram changed its algorithm. Like, it used to be that your news feed would be chronological, whereas now it's all off engagement, so it'll show you things that you interact with. So it's really key now that if you post a picture and you want it to do well, that you are spending time on the app and you're replying to comments and you are engaging with like hashtags that you've used, that you go into that hashtag and you comment on things. But it's a right job. Like, it on top of full-time work, it's really time consuming, but it's one of them that I just keep hoping that mine's going to take off, and it's really hard to let go of that hope that it will, because of what that could lead to. And I'm not someone that enjoys just the daily grind of a full-time job. I like to have my fingers in a lot of pies, and I want to have the option to do other things. So at the weekend when I was with my family, like, I was like, oh, I need to get a picture of this outfit, and I need to get a picture of this thing that I'm wearing, and they were all like, gosh, isn't it time consuming? And I was like, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So what drew you to Instagram in the first place?
Well, it started off with the cruelty-free things, and I wasn't really thinking about anything. I also randomly won a load of giveaways, so then I got really hooked on entering giveaways, and I won all sorts of stuff. And then I started, like, I think we went on holiday a couple of years ago, and I put like a couple of pictures up of my outfits, and it was like you said, one picture just went absolutely mental, and I was like, oh, maybe I can do this. And then, of course, it's been really hard to maintain. So I just like sharing fashion. I like looking at outfits. I like looking at the way people have styled things, where they are. Like, I'm quite nosy, and I just, now the main reason that I do it is because I do love fashion, and I want to show how I've styled something, and I want to share that. But then also I do want it to take off and go somewhere and be a career option. Like, my contract at work is a temp contract. So, and at one point I was getting quite a lot of paid ads. So it wasn't like as stressful finding full-time work, because I thought, oh, well, I'm getting £250 a month from Instagram. That's great. Like, now there's less pressure if I don't have full-time work all the time. Yeah. But it just sort of dried up, as these things do. Yeah. So it is hard to let go of the hope, though, that it could take off.
Yeah.
And it's annoying because I feel like I have to spend a lot of time on the app to get very little back.
Completely. It was like when I first started doing this, after I recorded my second episode, I got an email from a company wanting me to do an ad on the podcast for them, and they'd give me like X amount of money for every 1,000 listens. So I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I record the ads, and I was ready to put it in the episodes. Like, this sounds all cool. And then they sent me another email like, oh, sorry, we didn't realize that you were a UK-based podcast, because we only do paid adverts for American-based podcasts. It's like, why did you even contact me? I've recorded the ad now.
Yeah, that's so stupid.
But it's those little things, isn't it? When things take off early and you think, oh, I've done 2 episodes, this is amazing. But then it feels like it's a knock because you weren't expecting it. But now that it's happened and been taken away, you're kind of like, oh, I want some other ads.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Even though you're thinking, well, it's amazing to even get the offer in the first place, but it's one of those annoying things, isn't it?
It is annoying. And it's annoying when some people seem to be doing exactly what you're doing and they absolutely explode. And you're like, why has that happened? Why can't that happen for me as well?
Yeah, completely.
I need a break.
I think that's
my contract's up in January. Help me out.
I think that's one of the kind of the disheartening things about kind of social media, isn't it? That thing of you think you're doing a cool thing and you're doing it well to sort of the best of your ability, and you see someone else and you think, well, how are they getting to this point that I'm not at yet? But I think it's that thing of everyone's on different paths and different trajectories, and I always feel like if you're doing what you enjoy doing and you're putting out the content that you want to make, I think at some point it will pay off.
I hope so, because I do enjoy it, but it is you know, it is fitting it in around full-time work as well. So, and I, like I say, I do have to spend a lot of time on there to seem to get anything off it. So I do hope that it takes off. I really do. It's annoying as well when bigger bloggers copy stuff that you've done and they've got like a massive audience, and then other people are obviously influenced by them because they've got the huge audience, and you're like, you've blatantly copied that off me.
That's infuriating.
And you've got the massive following that I don't have, and you're
exactly. So it's like you in theory you shouldn't need to be copying me when you've already got this following.
Yeah, exactly. Or give me a shout out, like
yeah, exactly. Yeah, at least.
Cancel.
So you did the Everyman Writers course. How was that experience?
Oh, it was brilliant. You know, it was at a time when I was working in a primary school and I hated it and I was miserable. And it was really nice to have this creative outlet and to be like with like-minded people. Obviously, we met doing drama at uni. That passion for the theatre and for the arts and for creativity, I don't think it ever goes. And I do think it's a blessing and a curse, because I think that no matter what job you get, if you're not quite doing things related to creativity and the arts, you're never going to be fully happy. And I've like got the fear about that now, because I've got a good job at the minute and I'm still not fully happy. So I sort of think, well, will I ever be unless I become a fully established playwright, which might never happen because it's like a 1 in a million chance. So, but yeah, the course was amazing and met some brilliant people, some really talented, creative people. It was once every 2 weeks that you'd have the meeting, but during that time they'd give you plays to read. So that was nice, because I think reading a play is something that you'd probably put off or not necessarily sit down and do. Whereas when we had to do it for the course, it was lovely to have that incentive, and then you'd meet and you'd talk about it. And then the second half of the course was working to complete your first draft, basically, of a full length play. So to get onto it, you had to submit 10 pages, I think it was, the first 10 pages of a play that you wanted to work on the course. And then you got invited for an interview. And then when you got on the course, it was the January we had to have completed our first draft. And then the meetings were like became feedback sessions. So we'd all read each other's work. And then you'd work to do like your second draft. But then at the end of the course, we did like a showing, because at one point there was like, oh, and then it's done. And we were like, well, what happens at the end? Like, what do you do at the end of it? There was like a reading or like a sharing type thing got arranged. It was script in hand. So that was really cool to see bits of it on the stage. It was in the studio at the Playhouse. And then after that, my friend started like a theatre company, and she was like, oh, should we put your play on? And I was, I'd just got my first position at the Echo, and I was like, well, I will be working full time. I'm not sure how much help I'll be. I would really like to just act as well, and not like, I'm not a director or anything like that. So she directed it and she put it on with one of her own plays as well. So it was like a double bill. I do wish we'd sort of advertised it as an R&D, because it wasn't like the script. I wasn't fully happy with it, and it was one of them things where it's you obviously know how this feels because you've done your own work, you've staged your own work, but it's one of them where I feel like people came, and obviously like the way that we'd advertised it was like it was these 2 fully finished plays, when they weren't really. They were finished, but that was my draft 2.5.
Yeah.
And it just spitballed really quickly because I'd finished the course. And then in the summer, I met with my friend. She was like, oh, let's put it on in like late October, early November. So then we spoke with Hope Street Theatre. We went back and forth with them and we got the dates. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, I want to do some rewrites. And then it was like 2 weeks later, we were in the rehearsal room. And I was like, well, I can't really do rewrites while I'm working full time and we're actually rehearsing it. So, but you know what they say, hindsight is a wonderful thing, isn't it? And I wasn't fully happy with it, but I know you're always critical of your own
completely
work, but there's a lot about it that I would want it to change. And I think when you hear it on stage, you can't help but think, oh, that she's already said that, or something similar to that earlier, so I should cut that. And she's really hammering that point home, like it doesn't need to be said that often. Like, so there's quite a few things, but it was all like a bit too late to do anything about it. And I just wish that we'd showcased it as an R&D, because that's essentially what it was. We were like, let's see what they're like. Let's like get, have the theatre company have this like big intro so people know what it's about, and that it's predominantly like a female based theatre company. But just because I've done it once doesn't mean that it's the end. Like I will come to it.
I was kind of like that with Jose, the last play I did, because it was ready for a form of performance, but it wasn't polished the way I'd want it to be. And I think something I'm always going to do from now on. I think R&D is key to any project, isn't it? But I think something I always want to do now is record everything that I put out.
Yeah, good idea.
It's only when, especially if you're within the cast, I think it's only when you record it and watch it back yourself that you realise the little things that really need the work, and you can say, I don't like that. What's wrong with this? Why did I think this was a good idea?
Yeah, because it was obviously there was some stuff that we did cut in rehearsals, but then there was other things like the actors had. The plot was about 4 women, and I wanted each actress to have a monologue, so that, because I think that there's so many plays that we were in at uni where there was always one good part. I wanted whoever got cast to be like, oh, I've got something I can work with here and I can show skill with. So that was like a big intention with how I wrote it. I wanted each actress to have a solid character and their time to shine. But then there was like one of the monologues was really, really long, and I wanted to cut it, but it was the way it had been rehearsed, there was movement in it, and I was like, well, if we cut that chunk out, then there's that, how do we get from this bit of the stage to this bit of the stage? Like, it wasn't just a simple case of, oh, don't say that actually, or oh, just cut that line actually. And it was even like on stage and hearing what the audience responded to, and I was in it as well, so I was on stage and I was like, oh yeah, that's a good line, and they like that, and oh, that fell a bit flat. And obviously every audience finds different things funny. There was some stuff that got a laugh one night that didn't get a laugh the other. But yeah, it makes such a difference hearing it as a performance and being like, oh, actually that don't really work, that bit, or we could probably get there a bit quicker, or we could change that. So there is a lot that I want to, I'm glad you did it, because it made me see a lot of things that I think when you read it, you don't necessarily catch.
Yeah. And I think that's the difficult thing. I've talked about it before, where when you do fringe theatre, a lot of the time, and I'm not sure whether it's something that we've kind of inherited from doing projects with uni and college, etc. But like, I feel like a lot of the time you put all this work in to do a show, to do it once or have 5 or 6 performances, and then you don't do anything with it again, or you might not touch it again for a year or 2 years. And really, those first few performances are the show just finding its feet and understanding how it works with an audience. You're always changing things throughout that initial run. And if you're doing, say, 4 or 5 performances or 10, it's usually the last handful of those performances where you feel like the show is ready. The last 1 or 2 of those shows, for me, whenever I've done a project, I've always felt like those are the ones where it's like, okay, now we're starting to get what this show is, and now it's starting to have an audience, and now we know which bits we can make bigger, which bits we can cut, which bits we can play with. And then you don't touch the show again, and you're starting from square one all over again. Yeah,
I completely agree, and I do think it is the curse of just the way that full-time work is right now, and like, we all have to work to just survive. Like, living in England is bloody expensive, so you're not as free to do these things as you would like to be. And at uni, I think we got spoiled because all we did was work on these creative projects, and I don't think it set us up for like the big bad world. No. And like, it's really hard to actually do that in the real world. You're not going to get much of a chance, and if you do get a chance, you're going to have a 40-hour work week to tackle.
That's exactly it. And it's knowing how to manage those things, because I think in our final year, I wrote 3 plays and directed 4 plays. And I've never had a year that busy since finishing uni. There's no way, like, thinking about that now, put that the amount of work that goes into all those projects, writing 3 plays and performing and rehearsing all those plays as well, it seems absurd.
I know.
I often
win the lottery.
Yeah, literally. And I often look at that and think I need to, and I think I'm hard on myself about that. And I think I need to have that kind of work rate now. But like you say, with all the other responsibilities and different things you've got going on, it's hard to be able to do that. But then at the same time, you think, but do I need to make more time to make that a doable thing? It's hard to, isn't it?
I would love to work part-time. I really, really would love to just have a part-time job, because like you say, like, I don't think that ever leaves you, that whole wanting to put work on and put things out there, but it's just so hard and tiring. Like, my job, it's obviously full-time, 40 hours, but we have to work one weekend a month as well. So then there's a 7-day work week in there. You get a day off in lieu for it, but usually you're so knackered you don't really do anything. Or like, if I'm sat typing on my laptop all day, when I clock off, I don't want to get my other laptop out and then start writing. Like, it's really, really hard to find the desire to do it, because you're just tired, and full-time work is just really, really tiring.
Completely. I mean, that's what it was when I was teaching full-time.
Yeah.
There was always this thing of this kind of the dream of, well, you can teach, and then in the summer and Easter you can go and do projects. And because you spend so much time kind of planning and marking and doing research, you don't really have the time. When you have your downtime, you want that just to be downtime.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to weigh those things up.
And do you get that, like, anxiety? Like, I feel like I can't fully sit and relax, because I'm always like I'm learning shorthand as well.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, right, well, when you clock off, go over your shorthand and look at this, and oh, you've got homework from shorthand that you need ready for tomorrow, so okay, do that. And then there's some nights where I'm like, I'll be like, oh, we'll just watch a film or just watch a TV show, and I'm sat there feeling like, oh, I should be doing something, and I'm feeling like panicky, and so even in downtime I find it really hard to relax.
So and I think that the most difficult thing with writing is, I feel like I can't just sit and write for the sake of writing. I need to have that kind of, that idea, that feeling. And I think sometimes there'll be the odd time where I'll be like, okay, I've got this day off, and this day, next Wednesday, is totally free. That is going to be my day to write. And it comes to Wednesday, and I'll sit in front of my laptop and be like, should be writing now. I'll get something to eat, and then I'll write later. I come back later and I'm like, maybe I'll just get a coffee, and then I'll write, and then I'll get the juices flowing with the coffee. And you put pressure on yourself by saying, this is the day to write, so I've got this free time, I need to do writing in this day. But I feel like you can't, as kind of like silly as it sounds, you can't force creativity. I think when the moment hits you, you write. Like, for me, a lot of the time when I'm writing, I usually have an idea at like 11 or 12 at night as I'm going to sleep. And then I'm like, okay, I need to get my laptop out and write this down now while it's in my mind and fresh.
Yeah. I've started doing it on my notes on my phone.
Yeah.
Just because I think you can just copy and paste it and email it to yourself and then put it into a document. But I think getting the laptop out, and like, my laptop is ancient and it's just died on me this morning, so I'm a bit stressed about that. But I think, like, you always have your phone on you, so then if you get into the habit of, when you feel an idea or something, because I've started writing a book, but the vast majority of it was written on my notes on my phone, and then I just highlighted it and sent it in an email, and then like typed it up when I had the time. But like, I was surprised by how much I'd gotten down just on my notes, because anytime anytime an idea popped in my head, I was like, oh, I'll just write that down. Whereas going to get the laptop, it felt like a lot more formal, and then you'd think, oh, well, I best sit and carry on. Whereas when it's on your phone, you can just go and add to it whenever you like. And I feel like that's been working for me, especially with working at the Echo, and we work from home. Like, the sight of a laptop makes me feel upset. Like, I'm like, no, I'm on it all the time.
Itself causes anxiety.
Yeah, I'm on it all the time. Go away.
So you were saying before that you didn't direct the piece that you put on. I think we've talked about this before, but moving forward, was that something that you would want to do and have more of a say in your work creatively? I
think so. The reason I didn't want to direct it was I felt like I was too invested in it, and I saw it a very specific way. And like, one of the things they said on the course was, don't worry about how big things are in your script, or like, don't worry about logistics. If you want birds to shoot out of someone's stomach, write that in and let the creative team worry about that. So the way that I wrote it was very much just as a writer, and it was the playwrights course. And obviously you hope that it would get put on, but when we'd finished the course, I didn't think I'd have anything to do with it. I thought that I'd maybe enter it into competitions, or I finished the course and right away got a job that was full time, and it was like it's an hour's commute and an hour's home, so it was a 10-hour day. And then like I say, I met up with my friend and I said, like, I've just got this job at the Echo, it's full time, it takes me an hour to get there, an hour to get home, so I'm out the house for 10 hours a day. I'm not really gonna be able to direct but I would like to act, and I can like learn lines while I'm walking to work and this, that, the other. But I also didn't want to have like how I saw it in the writing room affect how it was staged, because I was quite like rigid, and I think that I was like, no, this is how it is in my head, and I didn't want that to ruin the show or for me to be stubborn about stuff. So I completely handed it over, and I'd said to my friend, like, I want you to direct it because I'm too invested and too like in my head about it. And she did a lot of things that I wouldn't have thought to do, that I wouldn't have chosen, but that was good because, like I say, I was so single-minded in how I envisioned it. So it was good for me to see it a different way. I think going forward, for me to direct something, I would really have to not be working. It's such a big job. And as well, I used to work in a school, so I'd always had the summers off. So when we had talked about it, like hypothetically, and talked about putting on a show, I was like, oh, well, we could rehearse through the summer, I'm off in the summer. And then boom, I got a full-time job. Yeah, so it was pretty bad timing, to be honest. Well, good and bad, because obviously it was a good opportunity work-wise. But yeah, I think it's a weird one. If I could take some time off, I would love to have a go at directing, but I've never directed anything and I wouldn't want to mess it up. But yeah, I liked acting in it. I liked having a stab at acting again, because it had been a while. I think the last time I was like properly acting consistently was when I was in London doing a course with the National Youth Theatre. But again, that was all we did. Like, it was a full-time course one summer, and it was 6 days a week, and it was great. But that's all we had to do. It's very hard rehearsing and directing and writing on top of full-time work.
Yeah, and there's definitely a rustiness, isn't there, when you've not been consistently.
And that imposter syndrome as well. Like,
completely. Because
I've not done this for a while.
Exactly, because I used to love improv. That was one of my favourite things to do. And the thought of doing improv now scares the hell out of me.
Oh my God, yeah, because there's that pressure. Be funny, say something funny.
Exactly. So with the Echo, how did that all start?
It was actually thanks to our good pal Dale Havers. Reach PLC is the company that owns the Echo. They own all sorts of like regional papers. They own Manchester Evening News, OK Magazine, Bristol Live, like all sorts of regional newspapers. The Chronicle up in Newcastle. And he works in recruitment for Reach PLC. So his job is like finding journalists and various other things. Like, he does all sorts. And I'd said to him, like, oh, I love writing. If there's ever anything that comes up, please let me know. And he was like, oh, you need your qualification, your NCTJ, and you need shorthand, so it's unlikely, kind of a thing. And I never thought anything of it, because I'd said this years ago when he first started working there. And then he messaged me and he said there's a internship or apprenticeship. Yeah, it was an apprenticeship paid for by Facebook, and it's for people that don't have their NCTJ qualification, and basically they get it through working at the Echo for 2 years. You need to have newsroom experience, which I didn't have, but you know, it's to be it was like a community reporter. So you'd be assigned to a community and you'd be writing about stories based on around that community. So Dale was like, oh, just apply, and then, you know, they've got your CV, then what's the worst that's going to happen? So I applied and I got an interview, and I didn't have newsroom experience. So when they called, they was like, we can't offer you the apprenticeship because one of the requirements is you have to have already had some newsroom experience, and you don't have that. Well, why don't you come in, get a bit of experience with us, do a couple of days when you can, and then if a job comes up, you'll stand a better chance of getting it. And I was like, all right, cool. And the recruitment officer woman that rung me, she was like, do take them up, because they don't have to offer you that, and they've not offered anyone else that, so take them up. So I was like, oh right, because at first I was like, oh, I didn't get it, never mind. Oh, they've offered me work experience, I'm not going to do that. And the woman was like, no, do it. So I did. I went in, and luckily on my first day I got a story published. The editor, Steve, has been extremely supportive, and I feel like he's really had my back. And I've never worked anywhere where I've felt that supported before, and like they want you to do well, and they knew that I loved writing and that I was passionate about writing, and I think they really wanted to try and help me stand a chance of getting a job there. So I went in, because I was working at the Everyman and Playoffs at the time, just doing like sales and marketing, so it wasn't full time. So there was a day a week that I could go into the Echo. And on my first day, I got Steve said, oh, will you ring this woman and interview her? Her son's trying, he's had a different type of medication. So I didn't realise that he was setting me up to write the story. I thought I was like being given a task and making notes and whatnot. So I rung this woman and interviewed her about her son's medication and how it had changed his personality when she switched his medication. So I went over and showed him my notes, and I was like, oh, she said so many great things, that could be a good headline. And he said, all right, do you want to write it up? And I must have been naive, because I really didn't think that he was going to let me write a story on my first day. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. And I remember I went out on my lunch, like a lunch break, and I was in the Sainsbury's on Old Hall Street, and I was like, Mum, they're letting me write a story. I was so excited.
Yeah, it's a really big deal.
Yeah, it was huge. Honestly, it was like insane. So I wrote the story, and like I looked at another article for like their formula, like the like pattern. So like your first line always relates to the headline. And then Steve was like, yeah, that's really good. And he told me a couple of, so like the way they write the date has to be in a specific way, and the way they like the certain things that they write is like the Echo way. So he told me a couple of things there. He was like, all I've changed is this because we write the date this way, and I've changed that because we do that way. And then it went on the site, and I was like, oh my gosh, my name is on there. Look, I have a byline. And it went in the paper as well. So I like bought the paper, or they might have given me it, I can't remember. But I think I bought one for my mum. And then that set me up in like good stead, really, because I'd had such a good first day. And I only did like 3 further work experience days, I think. And then Steve rung me and said, there's a job in the What's On department, and it's only 3 months. Well, it was over the summer. It wound up being 3 months, and it's full time. Do you want to do it? And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. So I did that, and then it ended at the end of last September, and I went back to the theatres. And then they rung me again in October and said, we've got a month's work on the news team in December. And me and Al had booked a holiday to Vietnam for the whole of January. And he was like, it's just for December, but then there's another job coming up that starts in February. I don't know what your plans are for January, or if you can get work for a month. I was like, I'm on holiday, like it's perfect timing. So the job that I'm doing now, I'm on the trends team. So I'm on a maternity contract, and it's just been extended because who I'm covering she's taking the full year. But yeah, it's been incredible. Like they've really, really had my back, and I've learned a lot. They're passionate about the city, about the job. It's very demanding. It's a lot more demanding than I thought it would be. And I have struggled with it working from home. It's not been as fun, like not being in the newsroom and around that like vibrant atmosphere.
Yeah, I suppose that especially having a team that you have that relationship with, it really makes a difference, doesn't it, in terms of
and you like bounce off each other a lot, and it's so much easier to just check things, because obviously I've not had any formal training. Everything I'm learning is like on the job, and obviously I'm learning from award-winning journalists, so it's great. But I do still have that imposter syndrome, like even though they've been lovely and supportive, and I still sort of think like, oh God, like how am I here? But it is good.
So what advice would you have for anyone who wanted to get into journalism and was trying to come up in that industry?
If you can do your NCTJ, I'd recommend that. Like I can't afford to do it because Liverpool College offer it. I think it's £4,000. I think it's the fast track course is about 4 months, but for me that would mean having £4,000 and also being able to live for 4 months with no income. But that's the best way to get in. Or if you could do a postgraduate, you could do an MA. If you're looking to go to uni, definitely go do journalism, but just make sure it's NCTJ accredited, because then you've got the gold standard qualification. If you don't have like if you want something the way I did it, I would just apply for internships, apprenticeships, write to your local paper and see if they'll let you come in for some work experience, and see if they'll let you have a go at writing things. And if they see something in you, then, and if they're nice like they are at the Echo, then I do think they'll give you a chance. But I do think that you've just got to try, because the worst that they can say is no. If it is your passion and it is something that you want to do, definitely get in touch and see if there's anything available. It's not the best industry to be going into now, thanks to coronavirus. There's a lot of
what industry is right now.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of redundancies happening at Reach, so that is a shame, and I am worried. about when my contract's up. I was feeling a bit quietly confident about maybe getting a job there, like a full-time contract, a permanent contract, but I'm not quite sure that it'll be able to happen just with the amount of redundancies they're having to do.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed for that.
Part-time would be ideal. I know it's a 24/7 newsroom, so part-time jobs are very rare. But I'm like, financially it'd be good for you, it'd be fine for me.
Yeah, that's the dream, and then you can work on some theatre projects more too.
I would love that.
So say if we were to do this podcast again in 5 years' time, where would you want to be? What would you have wanted to have happened?
Dreaming big.
Dreaming big. Let's go all out.
Let's go all out. So I would want to be a published author. I'd want my books in the top 10 section in Waterstones. I would want to be working as an author, playwright. I would like to be doing maybe a column somewhere, so still writing, but not necessarily just for one publication. I'd like to still be doing my Instagram and advertising clothes and cruelty-free beauty. I'd like to be acting, and I would love to have my own house and a dog.
That's the dream. That does sound absolutely delightful.
Cancel.
Just to close out this episode, I always like unusual stories. I'm sending you this unusual story right now. But, you're on your phone, aren't you?
Yeah, let me see if it'll let me.
Okay.
It's let me come out of it.
Okay, cool. I can still hear you as well.
Yeah. So you've sent me missing tortoise recovered after 74 days on the line.
So this is my unusual story for this week's show. A missing tortoise recovered after 74 days on the lam. So Solomon, the runaway tortoise, didn't get far, barely an eighth of a mile before he was found. So this tortoise, called Solomon, was missing for 74 days and didn't get more than an eighth of a mile away. What were his owners doing? Because I feel like an eighth of a mile is like the bottom of the road.
Yeah, you can check that. Walk one direction when he's not there, walk the other direction. You could do that.
And this is a family tortoise. And also it's a 150-pound tortoise. So you know how slow this old boy must have been going. So
he weighed 150 pounds.
150 pounds.
Wow.
And tortoises are slow at the best of times. He escaped from his Tennessee home, managing to make it less than a mile during his slow and steady journey. He crawled away from his Ashland City enclosure more than 2 months ago. He was discovered just an eighth of a mile away from home last week, his owner told this news company. I find this so bizarre. How far do they look? Because it says
must be massive as well.
Yeah, huge.
150
pounds. A giant tortoise like that.
150 pounds. That weighs more than me.
Exactly. I think it's a similar weight to me. I'm a pretty skinny boy.
That's not inconspicuous.
No, not at all. They say they'll never know the full details of the great adventure he went on that eluded them for so long. I feel like these people didn't look. In some ways, I feel like
look out the window.
I feel like they might not have wanted the tortoise back, and then someone's found it and given it back. Because in 2 months to get an eighth of a mile, after a week, it'd be at the end of their drive. So
they live in the middle of nowhere because
it must be.
How's no one spotted a giant tortoise?
Well, exactly. For 2 months, where was it hiding? Unless it was walking in bushes or something along the highway. Yeah. But the important thing is
really bizarre.
He's home now and he's eating watermelon, I'm hearing.
Oh, good.
Which is always a happy story, and we wish Solomon well. Jess.
God love you, Solomon.
It's a joy to speak to you as always. This has been episode 7, I think, of Your Boy Counselled. Jess Flaherty, thank you very much.